So in this video, I'm going to be taking you guys through some of my training methods that have allowed me to see additional muscle growth. I'm a huge fan of these intensity techniques. I benefited massively from these techniques as they have without a doubt helped me pack on more mass, which is important as I've exhausted my newbie gains now, and building muscle is becoming more and more difficult as I approach my third year of training. So with that said, I strongly advise you incorporate these techniques in your training, as these are techniques which increase the intensity of your sessions, which is one of the most important pillars in growing new muscle. So let me give you a brief explanation on what exactly intensity techniques, what are these training methods good for. Mechanical tension builds muscle. What does this mean? It basically means that hard ass reps and lifting heavy ass weight build muscle. And a lot of these techniques are basically post fatigue training, okay? Training past exhaustion, training past failure. Because let's be honest, okay? Unless you're a beginner or an intermediate, you know you have more energy in the tank. You know you can push past those 2-3 working sets which you normally do. A lot of these intensity techniques will allow you to get in more hard reps, therefore more mechanical tension, and fatigue more muscle fibers, which is what muscle building is all about. It's about creating mechanical tension with a weight that's hard, working through hard reps, and creating fatigue with those muscle fibers, okay? That is what muscle building is. And these techniques, these training methods are a great way to do that. Essentially, all these techniques increase the intensity of your sets, of your reps, of your sessions by altering tempo, volume, intensity, and by pushing past failure. Basically, just making your reps, your sets, and your sessions harder, and thus optimizing the hypertrophic response which you get out of those reps, sets, sessions, which effectively helps to simulate more muscle growth, allowing you to build more muscle. So this video is important for all newbie lifters, intermediate lifters, but especially for advanced lifters looking to put on more size when it's harder to do so. I believe these will help you. First up is the drop set, okay? These help you push past failure on your last set of your exercise. So for example, once you failed on your last working set, immediately drop the weight by 50%, 25%, and again go till failure, maintaining the same form, same technique, same tempo. You can do these with a lot of cable movements and machines. You choose, although I would not advise to do these with free weights. One, because they're less effective, they're less practical, and two, because they can be dangerous. Tricep extensions are great ones, which I do them on. Chest flies, I always do them on. Leg extensions. So machines and cables are primed for performing drop sets. I typically do these on my tricep extensions. Every time I train them, I'll do 2 sets, and on my back off set, straight away, I'll drop the weight and go again till failure. The reps that you die on, the reps that you are struggling with, those are the reps that produce growth. So I do think, especially as a more advanced lifter, you must tap into these new muscle fibers, which drop sets allow you to do, and therefore to produce more growth. Next is the rest pause, another one I'm a big fan of. So after your last working set, rest for 10 deep breaths and go again using the same weight till failure. These drop sets and rest pauses aren't an excuse to cheat your reps. You have to keep the same tempo and the same form throughout every set you do, whether that's working set, drop set, rest pause set, doesn't matter. Sometimes I even do 2 rest pauses, which is basically that times 2. So after your last working set, you take 10 deep breaths, you do a rest pause set, you wait 10 deep breaths, and you do another rest pause set, all till failure. I always do these with my leg extensions as a pre-exhaustion working movement, 2 top sets, and then 1 back off set. And then after my back off set, I'll do 2 rest pause sets. So I'll wait 10 seconds after my back off set, do a rest pause. Wait 10 seconds, do another rest pause. Burns. Again, these are effective because you're training past failure, past exhaustion, tapping into those new muscle fibers. Of course you are, right? Because your body's like, you know, we need more help here. We're training past failure. We need to recruit more muscle fibers, which is essentially what happens when you do your rest pauses and your drop sets. And so they really are effective at producing additional growth. Okay, and there's also rest pause sets that you aim to do a certain amount of reps on. Does that make sense? So for example, say on my rest pause set, I'm like, okay, on this rest pause set, I'm gonna get 15 reps. But if you don't get 15 reps, you fail at 10 reps, then you stop again, you do another rest pause, so you take 10 deep breaths, and then the next set, you have to get 5, because 10 plus 5 is 15. That's also an effective way at producing additional growth. That's a bit complicated, but you know, it's another way to use a rest pause. Next are muscle rounds. These are very effective, especially with stubborn muscle groups, which take a lot of volume and intensity to grow. I do muscle rounds on my lateral raises. What they are basically 6 sets of 8 reps with 10-second rest between sets. So again, fatiguing your muscle fibers, recruiting more muscle fibers because you're pushing past your limits. Next is the superset. So take 2 exercises, okay? Working the same body part with no rest in between. So once you've finished one, once you failed on one, go straight to the other and perform it. Once you've completed both exercises, then you can rest. For example, tricep extensions followed by bench dips. It's a really good burnout. Again, fatiguing muscle fibers, recruiting more muscle fibers, and producing additional growth. Next are accentuated eccentrics, which is basically lowering the weight. Take like 3-4 seconds to perform accentuated eccentrics, to perform lowering the weight. I do these all the time on my squats and my RDLs, typically with my big leg movements. I accentuate my eccentrics, which increases the amount of time the muscle is under tension for, which leads to muscle growth. Lastly are partial reps. After your working sets, complete small half reps, basically pushing as much blood into the muscle as possible. You can do these on a bunch of machines. You can do these on, again, leg extensions. Chest press is also one that you could do it on, but I typically do them on my lateral raises. After I fail on my working set, I'll try aim for 10 partial reps, and that's it. Those are my, main go-to ones. I do have other ones, and maybe I'll make another video explaining the other intensity techniques which I incorporate in my training. And lastly, before I forget, for these intensity techniques which you incorporate in your training, you don't want to be doing a drop set every movement. You don't want to be doing a rest pause every movement. Sticking to the 3-set max rule. So 2 working sets plus an intensity set, not 3 working sets and an intensity set. Okay, for the average person, that is a bit too intense, as you are kind of at risk of additional stress, which can be then counterproductive, because if you do these too often and on every movement you do, it can lead to overtraining. So I don't know you, I don't know your body, I don't know how you respond, so I have to generalize here, but typically I would advise only choose 2 movements to incorporate these intensity techniques with per day. So 1 drop set and 1 superset. 1 superset, 1 rest pause, not 1 drop set, then next one do a rest pause, the next one do eccentric, next one do a superset. That's too much. And I would say again, stick to machines and cable movements. Do not perform these with free weights, specifically the drop sets and the supersets. You don't do like a drop set on a barbell squat or a barbell bench press, okay? So these are great to use on isolation movements like tricep extensions, bicep curls, lateral raises, all these kind of movements, rather than your big compound lifts, which you typically would do at the start of your sessions. So leave these to, I would say, again, generalizing here, later on in your session. But for example, with your eccentrics, you would do them on bigger movements like your squats on your RDLs. And there's a lot of science behind what I'm explaining, and people might be like, oh, shut the fuck up, bro, like this is just bro science, just lift heavy ass weight. And yeah, you're right, to be honest. Most people will respond pretty well to just eating right and training hard. But if you really want to maximize your genetic potential, if you really want to see what you can become, what your physique is capable of, these are good things to understand and apply in your training. Intensity techniques are an advanced thing, but again, they are good for taking your physique to the next level. So thank you for watching. Hope these tips will prove helpful in helping you advance your training and achieve your muscle building potential. I have a lot more intensity techniques which I do and training methods which I incorporate. If you want to see a part 2, leave a like and sub. Let me know in the comments as well. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have any video suggestions. I appreciate all of you coming out with a video very soon. But until then, peace.